In the part 1 and 2 of this video series, the body, mind, and consciousness, we discussed the body and its role in our life, as well as the mind, and how it functions. We concluded that body and the mind determine who we are as humans, on physical and personality levels. We said that while the body is worldly and mortal, it is also a form made of the same elements that contain in the other forms of existence, on the earth and in the universe. The mind, on the other hand, is responsible for thoughts, emotions, and actions. The problem we mentioned was that the mind can be the cause of suffering when it functions in a state of unawareness. We concluded that there is a deeper faculty in us that is even beyond the mind, thoughts, or even intelligence. And that faculty, we said, is the consciousness. Consciousness is one of the most controversial and challenging subjects, both in the related empirical science and philosophy. Despite so many scientific findings and ongoing research, there are still debates about how the consciousness is produced. Most scientists, and more specifically neurologists, assert that the mind and its thoughts are completely the function of the brain, and its processes at the cellular level. At the same time, however, what is commonly meant by consciousness in neuroscience is conscious attention, or conscious intelligence, and that includes the mind as the faculty of thinking. But there are also scientists, including physicists, neurologists, and biologists, who think deeper about the new scientific discoveries. These scientists are known as the post-scientists. They say that although a healthy brain is essential to consciousness, however, the scientific experiments on brain and their relationships with human conscious behavior are not enough to prove that the brain by itself is the producer of consciousness. They assert that it is possible that the brain is a receiver of consciousness, and not the producer of it. They argue, for example, the same way that a TV set requires a functional circuitry to show television images and sound, it does not mean that the device itself is the producer of such video and audio data, but as we know, the device is only a receiver of the signal from a television transmitter. On the other hand, in the progressive spiritualism, and of course according to Oriental philosophy and schools of thoughts, consciousness is not limited to a range of ordinary wakeful experiences or simply conscious attention. Spirituality also accepts that without the brain, there is not going to be a mind and its thoughts, but what is called consciousness is different from the mind. In this viewpoint, as the mind deals with the perception of senses and the generation of thoughts, consciousness is the vast underlying universal non-physical field, eternally present in our pure being, or maybe even our pure being has presence in it. Spiritual consciousness is present in every human being, but is in most cases veiled by the ego and personality. The ego and personality are in turn shaped by the worldly perceptions of senses, beliefs and social acquisitions, learnings, and of course illusions of all sorts produced by the mind. From a spiritual point of view, humans can have conscious attention, but they are not necessarily in a state of consciousness, unless the individuals go through spiritual transformation or awakening. Therefore, if consciousness is not the mind, thoughts, intelligence, and personality, and is independent of all worldly identities, then it is not individually specific, like the body and the mind are. And therefore, it has got to be pure, in a sense that we may all be in one single field of consciousness. We could call this field as the universal consciousness. In that case, we can say that while the body and the mind make us different individuals, however, our consciousness is pure and the same. In other words, I could say that my consciousness is the same as your consciousness, as well as the consciousness of everyone else. As the great Sufi poet Rumi said, "That moment that we sit together, in two physical forms, but in one single soul, we will make the stars jealous of our light." At this point, we can begin to move to the discussion about the source of consciousness, as included in detail in The Two Worlds, where the author compares human intelligence with artificial intelligence, to argue that consciousness is beyond the mind and even intelligence. And hopefully, there will be one or more videos on the subject.